Today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Monday, August 24th, 2015. And here are some of today's trends in the news. Whew. Not a good day for the markets. And just to replay a little bit from last week, Friday, Dow was down over 300 points. All the markets around the world way down. Then we had the weekend. And remember, it's a summer weekend. And this is summer, I'm going to tell you. I've never seen a summer like this in my life relative to the markets. Because what usually happens is that market collapses, crashes, panics. They usually happen around October. That's usually the first hit because people are having a vacation and they're in a vacation state of mind. And trading is very light and there's not a lot of volatility. Not this year. Totally different. Volume's way up there, and volatility is at record highs in some areas. So when things happen on a Friday, particularly in the summer, you'd expect, on Monday, it'll quiet down. Not this Monday. Over there in Shanghai land in China, down over 8%. Hang Seng, Nikkei, all down big time. Across Europe. The markets open up here in the States. They were down 1,000 points. Hey, I wonder if that plunge protection team came in there and soothed things out, plunged it out a bit because the markets recovered a lot. But then, hey, they closed down almost 600 points. Look at these numbers. Look what's going on. And listen to the story. U.S. equities dive further as signs of weakness in China. Right here. Financial Times. Weekend. Stocks plummet, threatening end to long bull run. Here we go right here, New York Times. But in the last 2 weeks, world markets tumbled as investors grew increasingly concerned about economic conditions, you know where? In China. Global stocks suffer sell-off as fears intensify over China or Chinese slowdown. Global shares nosedive. You know what on? China economic news. We even heard Trump shooting off his mouth. It's about China. We got to take action. Taking our jobs. Nobody knows what's going on. We do. Don't speak for us, Mr. Trump. It's not China. China is merely the canary in the global equity market mine. You've heard me say this for how many months, if not a year or more. If Europeans and Americans aren't buying things, China's not making them. And if China's not making them, resource-rich nations aren't selling them their resources. So you're having commodity prices now are at 16-year lows according to the latest index. Look what happened to oil today. Down over 6%. Now even Brent is flirting with under 40. This is real. You know what the U.S. does? They got a solution. They urge China, U.S. urges China to rely less on exports. The Obama administration on Friday urged China to shift its economy away from dependence on exports, renewing U.S. pressure on the country after Beijing devalued its currency. The Treasury Secretary, Mr. Liu, also urged China to continue economic overhauls to move the economy toward greater dependence on consumption rather than exports. Could you imagine the arrogance of these people telling what another country to do? While our economy stinks, no more exports, we'll export. We don't have any manufacturing here. You forgot, you people in Washington, you gave it to China. And now you're giving it to Vietnam. And you're giving it to every other poor country where the manufacturers can get their stuff made by slave labor and bring it over here and sell it to us under the name of free trade. So, there's the arrogance of the United States advising China what to do and telling their people to consume more, go deeper in debt, really be stupid. We are, not we, they. Hey, you don't hear about shopping until you drop it anymore, huh? Guess that dropped off the radar as the jobs dropped out of America because slimers like Lou and all the rest of them sold us out. But we won't talk about that. We'll just continue to talk stupid and say this is all China's fault, just like Trump is blowing it out. Speaking of stupid, China okays pension funds to pour in $100 billion into the markets. That's right. That's what they did in trying to boost the markets up. And it's not working because they have their own problems right there in China. Here we go. Fading economy and corruption vex China's elite. To be an elite. I grew up, born in the Bronx, grew up in the Bronx and Yonkers. I guess I can never have elite in my blood. Big problems, no solutions, losers everywhere ruling a country near you. And writing about it in the toilet paper. Big story over the weekend. Headline, woof. As the markets plummet on Friday, here's the headline across the section of business. Top above the fold. This week's market sell-off may not be such a bad thing. If you step back a bit, what has happened in the financial markets this week looks less like a catastrophe in the making and more like a much-needed breather when various markets have been starting to look a little bubbly. Who wrote this crap? Neil Irwin. Gets better. Here's his closing line. In the meantime, the best response for investors trying to grapple with the latest bout of volatility. Oh yeah, grapple with the latest bout of volatility. Oh, those poor people in the Hamptons having an unrestful weekend. But he has a solution for you. Take a deep breath. What am I, 6 years old? You're talking to me like this? Take a deep breath? Yeah. And they get paid to write this stuff. But once again, are they paid to be stupid? Or is this just more prostitute propaganda? Appreciate the remarkable run-up of the last 5 years. And remember that if you panic at the thought of losing 6% of your money in a week, that money really shouldn't be invested in the stock market to begin with. And he tells you what to do. Because we got another guy, just like him, man, spouting off his crap right behind him, not making it up. Here it is. This is by Ron Lieber. Ready for the headline? Take some deep breaths and don't do a thing. How's that, huh, Ron? The impulse when the stock market falls hard for a few days in a row is to do something. But be a stupid SOB and just listen to me and take a deep breath. This is a global meltdown. Commodity prices are crashing. It's not a one-off like some whack-off would have you believe. Currency prices, commodity prices, you're seeing it in numbers. This is not about China or the markets. It's bigger than that. It's all of this Ponzi scheme to pump up the markets that created trillions, several trillions of dollars worth of merger and acquisition activity. And now we're on track, up until this happened, to beat the high mark of 2007. All of the stock buybacks, where some 90% of the cash went to buy back stocks, did nothing to boost economies, and now we're seeing the reality of it. Again, you're looking at oil prices. Here on the weekend, oil briefly breaks below $40. Now on Monday, we're looking at it. Will it break 37? They're talking about West Texas. And while the other commodities are sinking hard, gold's just sinking a little bit, down about $5. A little story here in the Financial Times over the weekend. Gold regains its haven of law in equity rout. The metal has diverged from other commodities to benefit from risk aversion in markets as oil prices weaken and emerging market currencies slide lower. It is up 8.5% from its intraday low for the year reached on July 24th. And remember, around July 24th, that's when things started to collapse big time. 2 weeks later, that's when China devalued their currency. A week after that, started seeing the equity markets start to plummet. And you're looking at currencies plummeting. Russia plots move as ruble nears a 2015 low. Moscow has said it will try to combat the slump through foreign currency sales. And on to some world events. Hey, Israel attacks Syria. That's right. A rocket came in, one of these little bottle rockets, landed in nowhere, and they blamed not only Syria, but Iran. And then did you see the news that Nuts Netanyahu wanted to bomb Iran twice in the last few years, but they got cold feet, some of the cabinet members? Wonderful, huh? I guess he wasn't bluffing with his time bomb, because he was ready to send one when he wrote and drew that little childish cartoon time bomb in the UN. Yeah, by now, he said, Iran would have nuclear weapons if he didn't bomb them, or we didn't bomb them back then. They don't have nuclear weapons, but he was ready to bomb away. And I'm not making this up. The Israeli military said it was pursuing militants who had fired rockets at Israeli-controlled areas on Thursday, and Israel's repeated its claim that Iran was ultimately to blame for the rocket fire. How's that for stretching the truth? Why not? And again, this migrant problem, it just keeps building and building. Police and migrants clash after Macedonia closes its border. We started talking about that on Friday. And then migrants rush Macedonia border, then are let in. And you keep seeing one after another German town to add security after protests. The German police plan to step up security measures in a small town outside Dresden on Sunday after 2 nights of sometimes violent demonstrations by right-wing extremists near temporary shelters for refugees. Right-wing extremists. People that don't want refugees in their country are right-wing extremists. They write that all the time, whether they're talking about Netherlands, they're talking about Italy, they're talking about Germany, everywhere. France, except in the United States, when Trump says put up a wall and he wants to get rid of all the immigrants. How come the prostitutes don't call Trump a right-wing extremist when he is saying the same things that they are? Agree or disagree? How about one label fits all, prostitutes? Unless you bow down too low and are afraid of sticking on there from the man who pays your salary and you're afraid to tackle with him, huh? And when you listen to the news and you read the words and you see that the police and migrants clash with Macedonia at Macedonia border, here's what they say. I'm not making it up. The migrants, most of them fleeing violence in Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq, had grown impatient after spending most of Friday in open fields under heavy rainfall. Hey, wait a minute. Violence in Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Brought to you by the military madman and the commanders and all of the low-life people running Washington, D.C., congressmen and senators. No one says who causes the violence. Oh, yeah. And now Israel's jumping into Syria. Turkey's into Syria. The Arab Little League, with all those oil prices declining, you're going to start seeing violence spreading up everywhere. Afghanistan they're coming from? Hey, Petraeus! Hey, Stanley McChrystal Meth, you little general boys, about your impressive progress, impressively murdering people by the